Glorious versus ESV Wildfire.
That's right.
And we can see it here. Now, Kubi, run me through this. You've been looking at this while we were sitting at production. What do we have for the bands?
Okay, all right. So, first of all, we are playing on Cursed Hollow. And I believe Glorious has... They do have top seeds, so they've opted to go with first pick, first ban.
Okay.
Glorious has started off with a Nazebo ban.
Wow, Nazebo.
If you had asked me a month ago, I would have told you you're crazy. That's not actually the case.
Yep.
But they have decided to go with a Nazebo ban. He has picked up quite a bit of steam in the past few weeks, mostly since the recent patch. We've seen some heroes fall out of favor that are counters to Nazebo, mostly Nubarak, Nova, So those are some of the big ones we don't see as much anymore.
Both those heroes losing Rewind, the potential, the burst potential out of Nova went down a lot, and Nubarak, the stun potential, down a lot.
And mainly that's to deal with Ravenous Spirit, which is the heroic of choice for Nazebo players. He can sit really, really far back, channel in, does a ton of AoE damage, can chase people down.
Yep.
Incredibly strong. So we see a lot of teams taking Nazebo early, and they build their teams around that. And since those counters aren't as prevalent in the current meta, we don't, we've seen Nazebo picked a lot more. And
what about the other half on the ban?
Okay, we do see a Kerrigan ban. That's interesting. I could have seen perhaps a Zeratul, but this might be them trying to set up something that they feel Kerrigan is strong to deal with, something that they want to pick up. Following that, we see Glaurung take Tychus as a first pick. That's no surprise there. Tychus is a very strong hero. Moving forward, Wildfire has taken Falstad Zeratul, so they're trying to pick up a lot of their damage output very early. Glaurung, on the other side, has decided to go with Vala and Arthas. Surprises me to see Arthas taken that late, to be honest.
Yeah, that's
very strong tank. He's just a very strong healer overall.
I mean, things have changed so much. I mean, we're looking at the bans here: Nazebo, Kerrigan, two really uncommon bans. If you looked at this, like you said, 2 weeks ago, definitely would not see that happening. And Arthas being picked that late. But you know what? We could talk about the draft for a while, but we can see the rosters here, and it loses a little bit of the flair when we already know, when we can look at the teams right here.
It's true.
The players are ready to go, and they're anxious to get started, and so am I. So I think we're ready to get going.
Yeah, let's get into this.
And tell the players.
Oh, I think they are ready. They're waiting for us.
We're ready. Yeah, no, we're just telling them that. Okay. We're ready. This is going to be the first match. We can see it's going to be Tychus, Vala, Chen, Arthas, Brightwing versus Falstad, Raynor, Uther, Zeratul, and Stitches. Map is, in fact, Cursed Hollow. And hopefully that's the right button. That is
there we go. So, Cursed Hollow. The only other thing to mention is that, of course, Stitches was picked up. He's very strong in this map. There's a lot of nice areas that you can pull from. They also have Zeratul on their team, which is... this used to be in favor maybe about a month and a half ago. Very strong combo. Pull somebody with the fishing hook, and as the other team tries to catch up to the pulled hero on their team, Void Prison to hold them out. Kill off that one person once everyone's out of the Void Prison on the other team.
Yep.
It's a 4v5.
It's a
really favorable position to put yourself in.
And the interesting thing to note is that we've been seeing Putrid Bile a lot in Stitches.
That's true, too.
This is a composition that we typically see Gorge when you get the pull and you want to gorge a player. Yeah. But we could see Putrid Bile for sure as become a more viable option. And okay, here we go.
All right.
Our first match of the day.
Let's do some introductions here, shall we?
So good.
For Glorious, we have Glaurung playing Chen, ZPs on Arthas, Nirak on Brightwing, Syracuse playing Vala, and Cathan Luck on Tychus.
And on the other half, we have Iacona playing as Uther. Zeratul will be played by Pickles. Puma playing Stitches today. Wargreymon on Raynor. And Falstad will be played by Bims.
Okay, so the other interesting thing to take note of is that Glorious has decided to go with the double tank, double warrior composition. And it's something that has sort of fallen out of favor in the past month or so, especially since this last patch. So they have decided to go with Chen and Arthas. So they will have a ton of staying power, especially with the sustainability of Brightwing. So we'll have to see how that plays into this this map, especially on Cursed Hollow. All right.
Yeah, Cursed Hollow, very, very common first map. I mean, probably the most common first map that we see competitively.
Yes.
A lot of the teams just like it. It's a good-sized map. It's kind of dynamic in terms of your options available.
Right.
And,
so we should talk a little bit about the recent changes in this past patch. We've noticed that the experience gained from creeps in lane is quite a bit higher. So it used to be a no-brainer. It was no question if once the curse pops up, or the tribute, all teams would shift just all 5 people to those tributes, and there would be a team fight that would happen at that point. Now, if you give up that lane experience, if you have one team that soaks and then the other team decides to go all 5, oh, holy crap, we have Bims a little bit too far out. Okay, seems to be fine.
A lot of damage,
Yes,
but yeah, like you were saying, I mean, it's no longer just a clear option to send all 5 members to that curse.
Right.
Soaking is now that much more crucial in the lanes. and making sure you get the maximum amount of experience to make sure you hit level 10 first. Like, it's not even just amount of getting your max experience, but level 10 is such a crucial point, and by the time the third curse spawns, teams are going to be hitting 10.
Yeah, and hitting, if you can hit that level 10 mark, just like, you know, a level ahead of the other team, that's going to give you a huge leg up, and you're going to be able to push those advantages forward. If you have to give up 2 tributes to do that, you might put yourself in a position where you can just roll the next 3 tributes very, very easily because you have that huge level advantage going, and because level 10 is so strong, it's so much easier to take team fights if you have your heroics and the other team doesn't.
Well, there's a lot of pressure here in the bottom lane. We see that we have Nirek, Thonluck, and ZPs just pressuring the bottom as much as they can. Another change they made in the recent patch we've talked about is just the towers now give experience. It used to be all the experience was on the fort and the keep, but now it's all distributed between the 3 towers and the town hall. Well, Iacona getting really low, the investment going down from ZPs, but not going to be enough. He just taps the well and backs that up.
Another thing I'm noticing about this composition is the inclusion of Raynor without Rhaegar and Bloodlust. Something that we've seen EU sort of adopt. More often than not, they will take Raynor. They feel as though he is a strong assassin, can deal out the damage, especially when you build into his auto attack, which is what we're seeing Ward Greymon do at this point on Raynor. He has taken Season's Marksman, level 1, and he's taken the Advanced Optics, which is the range increase for his auto attacks. So he will be building, I imagine at level 7 he'll take something like Searing Attacks just to keep with that theme.
But we do have the tribute here. Pickles is going to try to ninja it, but no luck. Nirek just kind of boldly walks on up, but Iacona and Pickles aren't just going to let it go up for free. 3v3 here in the bottom, and we can see that the top and middle lanes are both being soaked. So, like
that's
we said,
exactly what we were talking about before. It just so happens that both teams had their most of their presence in bottom lane. They were running a 3-man lane on the bottom, so all they had to do was rotate up. And of course, there'll be a fight between those 3 remaining heroes on the bottom lane. But like you mentioned, we do have both teams are soaking lanes, and that's one of the big differences that we're seeing on this map since the last patch.
And look at Nirek, just consistently sitting there, taking the shots, healing with her passive on Brightwing, and just trying to cap it slowly. But you know, both teams again just kind of soaking, really passive right now. But we have a rotation from Wargreymon. Now it's 4v3, and suddenly Glorious seems to back up. ZP's getting very low here. Goes up from Iacona, and they do get the kill. This will allow them to pick it up. Cathan, Luck, and Nirek don't want to go challenge that because there's a lot of damage available, and that's going to be a tribute here for ESV Wildfire.
Yeah, so I think what happened in that situation was Wildfire decided, okay, it's late enough in the game where picking up a kill or just quickly rotating down to push the other team out to take the tribute, they've decided that it outweighs taking that extra experience in the lane during that time.
Yeah, but at the meantime, I mean, we can see Syracuse got a lot of work done, soaked more experience, but there is actually still a level advantage.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, it's like you're mentioning, if Syracuse just had like another second and a half to push, you might have been able to take those 2 towers down mid lane, and that would have completely evened up the experience.
Yeah, but taking out that fort, or the tower there in the bottom half, the bottom lane, the whole wall is now gone. That's really putting things dead even. And, you know, the second tribute will spawn. We'll see how the teams react, but how are the builds looking so far?
Builds are looking pretty standard. One of the only talent that was taken that's really I'm questioning a little bit is Poom on Stitches at level 4. He decided to take the Slam, puts down his trait on whatever he hits. I was talking to Glarong about this a little bit because he plays Stitches a fair amount, and he said that when he ran the math out, since the last change in the patch to Stitches, they changed his trait damage a little bit. I guess there's more DPS if you take auto attacks put down trait instead of Slam. So perhaps he doesn't know about it. Maybe he just feels it's more consistent, you know, hitting more people with Slam than he can with auto attacks. Not sure. I'd actually like to pick his brain about that later to see if he's aware of that change. But we do have another fight for the second tribute here. CP is really out of position, getting autoed by Falstad, seems to be able to make it out. And it looks as though Wildfire will be able to take this one. No contest.
Yeah, so they're up 2 tributes right now. Just want to say ZP's barely lived due to the polymorph. It's a really nice polymorph. Forced them to go back and just barely saved them at the last second. Brightwing doesn't have a lot of, you know, burst healing. So ZP's can't really just like wait for that heal from Uther if you had an Uther on your team. But polymorph, another clutch thing, and the pixie dust can help them get out of scenarios like that. So nicely done. And you know, even though they're down 2 tributes, both teams are level 10. They're pretty much dead even there. I really think at this point Glorious is going to go full force into the next tribute because they don't want to give up.
Of course they're going to. And at this point they have pushed out further than Wildfire have, so they've sort of traded out these 2 tributes, which is going to sort of give them the initiative in that last team fight because they know that Glorious is going to go for it, which might allow them to back up, take Mercs. Maybe they will decide to take their Golem on their side of the map because they know for sure that Glorious has to represent at that last tribute. And they both have spawned, I was about to say, they both have spawned bottom, so that we know based on the rules of how the tribute spawn, the last one has to spawn on the top side of the map.
And, you know, both teams should be well aware of this, and even still, they're looking for the rotation here. So they got a little greedy. They should have waited a little bit longer, in my opinion, to actually know their plans are to give
I
them
like this. Okay, all right, so, and you were mentioning teams should know about this. It was actually Akona who first brought this to light. He made a YouTube video about this, so check that out if you guys haven't seen this. But they were well aware that it was going to spawn top. They had a lot of representation bottom, and they took my idea in terms of taking the golem there, and they said, we can take that a little bit further, and we're going to take their golem. Now, it sort of pans out that timing-wise, it looks as though Glorious is going to take, they're just basically going to swap golems. But I like the idea there, and if things had spawned, like the tribute had spawned just a little bit later, it might have worked out in their favor that they could have taken their golem, given up the tribute, and then go up to contest them taking Wildfire's golem as well.
Yeah, well, nice plays by both teams, though. I mean, both teams really taking the safe route. Wildfire knows they don't need their, like you said, they don't need the tribute. Grab the golem. But this bottom golem is actually just going to do a lot of work because there's no one anywhere nearby to defend it. It's really just going to town right now.
So we actually haven't gotten a chance to talk about these tributes too much, although it looks like as though we're going to be taking a bit of a team fight here. Glorious has decided to push out with their golem and leave the bottom lane uncontested. Brightwing has decided to float down to take that fourth tribute, which will tie the tributes up. But I would think, well, maybe this will be about an even trade. A little bit of a party bush?
Yeah, a little bit. This is a full party bush. Brightwing, of course, has the Omnipresence, can grab the tribute and use Spaceship to go up at any time. So they get the tribute for free. Fort's, you know, trade bottom fort for top fort. You know, the Golem's still pushing a little bit here, but he's going to fall after one more shot. But we see a big engagement here from the back line. The Void Prison goes down, hitting two members here. Shockanaw really doing a lot of damage to ZP. Syracuse getting a lot of value out of that strafe, but he's going to go down as well. Emerald win a little bit too little, too late, and Glaurung and Nirak, they're all really low here, but Iacona also very low.
Okay, so I was going to say, really nice Void Prison coming out from the Zeratul there. They were able to isolate two people, and they got a kill very quickly, but they didn't deal with Strafe. And since they had no CCs to deal with that, it was able to deal a lot of damage. They didn't kill off Arthas fast enough, I think it was, yes. And since that was the case, then you're as soon as the Void Prison wears off, you're dealing with a Tychus full DPS in Odin, and it sort of cleaned up to be a fairly even trade. I actually even think that Glorious ended up on top of that team fight, so...
they traded only two members, even though they lost the first two, I believe.
If they had a way to deal with Strafe to knock it out, to CC it in some way, I think that would have been very one-sided in Wildfire's favor. So just a slight misstep there. You know, it's sort of just a matter of like, where was Uther? Did he have his Hammer of Justice available to deal with it? Could he run in? Did he take Sprint? He decided not to go with Sprint.
Uther not running with Sprint.
Not running Sprint. He actually decided to go with Shrink Ray in this case, so we have a huge
the
fight
hook there!
up.
Oh my goodness! Actually, just pulls Python like in. It does a ton of damage. We see Glaurung going in and popping Panda Pals at the last possible second.
Wow.
The wind does a lot of work zoning, but look at these Banshees. ZP's is getting so low, even with his heroic. He's just getting super low here. Pickle's gonna fall, and Wargreymon will fall as well. Glorious coming out on top even after the
so many close calls there.
Yeah.
They actually spent a lot of their effort focusing on Glaurung, and they should be aware that he has Panda Pals, which is essentially a very quick activatable. As soon as he taps the button, he's invincible until he goes through the transformation, switching into 3 smaller but full health bars. So putting a lot of your DPS effort into trying to kill Glaurung in that situation wasn't the best of ideas, and they could have perhaps even changed targets to focus on CPs. Arthas, he almost died to the Banshees. Got a very clutch death coil off onto himself, which heals him just a little bit. It was enough for him to run away. All these factors sort of snowballed into Glorious taking a very significant team fight there. They also got the curse as well, so they're going to have some giant push power. With Knights going down mid, things are looking up for Glorious.
They're looking pretty darn good now. They use their curse here, and they're getting a decent amount of work in it, but they're not really pushing super hard, and they're not even soaking in the experience. There's a little bit that they could be, a little bit more they could be doing. They're kind of rotating around, seeing if they could get anything cheeky done. They're playing safe as well. We saw the hook attempt here. They thought they might be going for Knight, so they're not playing too greedy. But getting all 3 forts this early in the game, when they've only lost 1, is definitely a really nice upside.
Right. And at the current position that both teams are in, Glorious is ahead 1 tier talent, that is level 16 tiers. This is where you hit a huge DPS buff for Chen. He gets the crit on the next auto after using Flying Attack. We see Stone Skin, the Polymorph upgrade that Polymorph targets takes 25% more damage. So we see a lot more survivability / DPS for the team. Level 16 is a giant power spike. Oh, and we see Glaurung is going to be contested to take these giants here.
Oh, they goes in with the Gorge. Pickles getting super low really, really quickly, and Emerald win after they're rooted down from the Howling Blast, just getting the damage, not the pushback. And then we just have so much. The Strafe, once again, a really, really crucial thing you have to interrupt. Unable to do that here. And 2 members down really quick.
Yeah, it happened really quick. And another thing, too, that was interesting with the Brightwing positioning was able to basically pin Poom against the wall, the Stitcher player, and everyone else was forced to be pushed out. So it really did a nice job isolating Poom. And they were able to take him out very quickly. And like you said, the Strafe went uncontested once again. I think that's sort of been the story of a lot of the team fights here. Is the Strafe's just been going off, dealing a ton of damage. And BIMS is the DPS output in terms of shock and awe. Like, you really need to be able to hit that, like, almost to initiate the fight. Like, if they're like, okay, we just landed 3 or 4 people in that, then we dive in to try to finish things up. But he's sort of hitting these, like, off the mark. They're hitting people, but it's sort of inconsequential damage because it's, hits them and then everyone just sort of backs up, heals up a little bit, and then goes in to push further. So none of the shock and awes that I've seen, while they're hitting people, they haven't really been turning any of the fights. Unlike
the party push here on Poom, it's going to fall so very quickly. Iacona needs to back up immediately, and he's just turning around. Glorious, just some cheeky play saying, look, you're going to want to take your Watchtower back. You want to feel safe? No, we're going to wait.
Yeah, it's a matter of Wildfire knows they're behind in this situation, so they have to do things quickly. They're like, okay, we need to go take this Watchtower back. Other people are going to have to rotate up. Like, they just have to almost take risks at this point where it's like, okay, we need to get control of the map again. So he starts to just move in there. It was like he was, probably aware of the possibility that there was a party push there, but just had to take the risk so that Wildfire could come back in this game.
Well, Wildfire is going to be grabbing their Golem as well. Golem's getting capped at pretty much identical times. And, well, no, just a little ahead, actually. More DPS coming up for Wildfire.
Okay, so we see that Wildfire, they're in position to take this tribute here. This will give them the curse if they're able to grab it. I would actually like to see them try to set up a position. They know that Glorious is going to try to come up to contest this. And they've sort of just backed off.
Yeah, they're scared. They're worried.
They could have put themselves in a very favorable position to take a team fight, and that might have been their key to coming back in this game, especially since they have them split up, like they have the Golem taken up top. They're basically going to get no value out of this Golem. But they've decided to go back and defend, especially since the bottom 4 is gone. I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, they're already on the back foot, and they're afraid of losing any health at all in their core.
I get that, but is this really the best way to come back in this game?
You're right.
It's hard to say.
I'm with you. It's, like you said, you got to make some risky plays. You got to get that team fight. You got to get back into the game, because right now, as they just let Glorious take everything on the map, they're going to just be falling slower, further and further behind. As the Golem didn't manage to get this fort, and these Knights are going to be their bias. Or excuse me, Glorious.
Right. So we do see them sort of taking a very, very passive. Maybe they have plans for maybe when the next Golem comes up on their side. I'm not sure what their plan is to come back, but you got to do something drastic. You got to set up a position for yourself where you know that you can take a team fight, even though you're down 2 levels. If the positioning is right and you get the start of the fight just right, things can go well for you, and we do see that setup right here.
Well, ZP's falls really, really quickly, but the Strafe, once again, just has nothing at all interrupting it. I mean, whatsoever. Full barrel, the Strafe feed, oh my goodness, the Emerald Wind going out. We see the offensive vault out of Vala, getting 2 kills here, both on Stitches, and Glaurung is here going hard after Iacona and Pickles. Pickles is going to be hard to catch, but Iacona is in a rough position here as the Panda Pals in his way, body blocking. And this is going to be a death as well. The Polymorph just going to make sure he doesn't do anything cheeky. And Glaurung has no fear! Oh, and he does pay for it. He does pay for it.
I want to give him like some props and then yell at him just a little bit. That was really, really nice. He used the W after in Panda Pals, which basically splits up the 3 Panda Pals. And then he queued afterwards, which gives you like
more range.
It gives you a ton of range when you use both of those abilities together. It was just enough to get him on the other side of Iacona Uther, and he was able to block him in place, get the kill. It was almost, I mean, he knew that Zeratul was just a little bit ahead. Like, I'm not sure why he felt the need to push forward, especially after coming out of Panda Pals. He had so little life. Of course, Pickles in this situation, he's taken Wormhole, so he can blink in, double Singularity, and cleave out. There's really no need. Like, he's going to be able to put that burst in with 0 risk. He can just blink back out.
I think he did the math that he could handle the damage coming out of Zeratul with his brew, but what actually ended up killing him was actually the wave of hype. Coming out of
it was the Uther Ghost. Perhaps he didn't calculate for that.
Yeah,
there was the stun that knocked him out of the brew, and it just, I mean, you guys saw what happened. It didn't end well for him. But I mean, that said, they're still so far ahead.
Yes, they have quite a nice lead, but yeah, uncharacteristic for him to overcommit like that. I think he's just Glaurung feeling cheeky.
So it was a nice play to take out the Uther, but of course
yes.
he needed to back up immediately afterwards. But
So
hindsight
2 to 2
2020
here for the curse again. Now, this would be the first curse. Oh my goodness, Pickles going in, but he has the wormhole to get on out.
Yeah.
Boom, getting so low so quickly, just gets removed from the fight almost instantaneously. And again, this strafe, the offensive vault going forward, so much damage, and Glaurung going right on Iacona. Got to remove, but the shock and awe hits all the Panda Pal, doesn't get a kill. Curse here picked up by Nirak, who can just phase shift back into the battle here. Curse moving forward. Glorious wants to end this game.
Yeah. I'm not really so sure how I feel about Pickles jumping into that. While he was able to do it very safely, he's throwing a ton of his burst away, just diving in, like going in onto the Brightwing, who's going to be in the back line anyway. Like, they need all the DPS they can get to chew through these 2 tanks, and they just blew a lot of his cooldowns, just about all of them, trying to deal with just stopping the tribute from being... And that's not really how you want to start the team fight. No. As you can see, it just didn't end well for them because they didn't have enough damage output.
Wow. Well, Pickles does fall pretty quickly there. Glaurung getting killed up by the Brightwing's passive and just brewing up constantly. He's just sitting there brewing. And with this curse here, I mean, they get the keep for pretty much nothing. They're going to go for the other keep. Oh, no.
No, they've already taken it out.
Two down there.
It's passive play, but it's making the most use out of the curse because you have the keeps that are not firing back. None of the towers are. They should be able to clean this up very easily. There's almost no way the Wildfire will be able to contest them pushing on this keep, especially with the Odin and the big red button that he opted to go with at level 20. There's 2 resurgences from Chen and Arthas on the other team. Even if they were somehow able to clean this team fight up, they wouldn't even be in that good of a position. So we see Glorious takes game number 1 on Cursed Hollow. Solid play pretty much throughout the entire game. They fell a little bit behind early on, but we've seen teams do this time and time again. They just stay patient. They soak the lanes, give up the first 2 tributes, and then they're able to take a bit of a level advantage. They took 1 team fight and just rolled that advantage all the way forward, all the way through the end game. We saw them take multiple curses, cleaned up every keep on their side of the map. It looked pretty solid from Glorious. Pretty
all
much
around.
From level 10 onward.
I mean,
all Glorious.
Yeah, we saw the one overcommittal from Glaurung.
Yeah, I mean, but that's such a minor mistake in the scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, he has resurgence at that point.
Yeah.
And he's just back up constantly, and it really didn't make a difference in the end. So, guys, this is, in fact, a best of 3.
Yes.
And we're going to get ready for game number 2, and we'll be back in just a minute. Stay tuned.